Hi, and welcome everyone to this webinar with Scandinavian Photo and Blackmagic Design. Today we will talk about Blackmagic Studio Cameras and ATEM Mini live production. So we're very pleased to have all of you with us, and also pleased to have Gabriel from Blackmagic with us today. You will meet him very shortly. My name is Susanne Holm. I am B2B account manager at Scandinavian Photo. And for those of you who don't know us, we are the leading camera reseller in Scandinavia. We have more than everything you need, tech for creative people within photo, video, and sound, both for professionals and amateurs. And here in the background, you see our flagship store on Vasagatan in Stockholm. We also have shops in Copenhagen, Oslo, Malmö, and Borås. And of course, we are also online at our websites and social media. And for this special occasion today, we want to give you a special offer. I hope you can see my screen now. So here is a special deal for all of you attending today. So if you want to place your orders and give this discount, and you will get a very nice price for ATEM Mini Pro and ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. We will also be very, very glad to receive all of your questions and thoughts that you might have during the webinar. Please put them in the Q&A function and we will attend them at the end of Gabriel's presentation. So Gabriel, please come and join us.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Without any further delay, I would like to start this presentation and thank you for joining us today. Let me share my screen here, one sec. Okay, I hope everyone can see that properly. So today we're going to be talking, of course, about the new Blackmagic Studio Camera 4K Plus and the Studio Camera 4K Pro. Those who don't know me, my name is Gabriel Catelli. I'm a technical sales specialist for Blackmagic Design. Been with the company a little bit less than 2 years. And prior to that, I used to work for the TV channel for the football team, Manchester United. So live production is something I'm very comfortable with. And that's why I'm going to be talking about this with you today. Right. First thing we need to think about is why you are here today and why you're looking to achieve from this presentation. And perhaps you are an existing ATEM Mini user or involved into production of podcasts, delivering online education or corporate communications, covering live events, or perhaps you're looking to equip a small studio production facility from scratch, or upgrading any existing facilities and you want to know more about the studio cameras. If one of these apply to you, that you are an existing ATEM Mini user, and this presentation is certainly for you. Today, I'll be taking you through the new Studio Camera 4K models that have been specifically designed to overcome limitations experienced by users of mirrorless cameras, DSLRs, and entry-level camcorders in any small studio or live production facility. One thing is for sure, well, I'm going to show you some stats to support that, is that there's been massive explosion into small productions and live streaming. So let's have a look at some statistics here that tell us what's happening in this live stream market. The video streaming market is predicted to be worth 124.6 billion by 2025. And to put that in perspective, it was worth 30 billion in 2016. So that's a huge predictive growth. Live stream watch time in the US has increased by 250% on year to year from 2019 to 2020, according to YouTube. And we might ask ourselves, is this how this will proceed after the pandemic? Do you think it's going to end? And according to GWI marketing research, a quarter of the viewers will continue to stream more post-COVID. And for the education environment, 81% of the students report that digital learning, including video, helps them to learn. So these are statistics that are very important to have in mind. Looking at the typical applications where customers are already using Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini series, there's some examples here. Some of you might already be involved in these areas or looking to get into them. First, podcasts and social media platforms like YouTube are a great place for business opportunities that can be created by entrepreneurs by running podcasts channels, for example, from sports commentary to technology reviews. And this has also shown no sign of slowing down. Corporates and other organizations such as charities are also increasingly using video for communicating with their staff and the stakeholders. And education had to go online post-pandemic, and many institutions are saying that we'll continue to deliver some of the lectures remotely. Of course, there are also colleges and universities using this equipment to deliver broadcast technology and journalism courses. Another big, huge piece of this live streaming market is e-gaming. Platforms like Twitch and others have proven to be very relevant at this point. Outside small studios, we find parts of live events markets that can necessarily have to do the shift to virtual events for corporate activities such as customer outreach, internal communications, and company AGMs. And there's also a coverage of performing arts for theatre and live music events. And all of these have one thing in common, that they were using a mirrorless or DSLRs or entry-level camcorders to cover the event due to the lack of a dedicated studio camera at this price point. Using mirrorless and DSLRs and camcorders in a studio or live in event setting is a definite compromise in terms of operational efficiency, and I'm going to tell you why. So what are you missing when you're using mirrorless or DSLR cameras? Well, first thing we need to remember is these cameras are optimized for still photography. And one question we can ask right now is, but what do we need on a studio camera? So in terms of studio camera, a large viewfinder to quickly assess and adjust shots. DSLRs normally have a tiny eyepiece viewfinders or small flip out screens. Balanced audio for professional mics, but photography cameras have very basic audio connections normally. Full-size HDMI, mirrorless cameras, DSLR, sometimes they have mini or micro HDMI, and these are very fragile and the connection risking very poor connection. Some DSLRs have full-size HDMI, but you won't find any SDI connection in this type of cameras. Studio features like TalkBack and Tally. Now, a quick explanation about Tally. Tally lights is the big red light that lights up, just to tell the presenter or the performer that the cameras is on air. And TalkBack is the way the production crew communicates using mic and headsets. So these features are simply not part of the design concept for still cameras, and they can only be achieved within SDI workflow. And of course, when working with the ATEM ecosystem, the software control can actually control the cameras remotely. Settings like gain, ISO, color correction, and between others. Third-party cameras cannot offer this benefits in their workflows. And of course, there are various bolt-on adapters that people can add to add these features to DSLRs, but of course, this is going to have an extra cost and this could be a huge compromise in terms of integration. Now, looking at camcorders, let's think about what we're missing when we use camcorders. Camcorders in this budget range have similar compromises. Again, camcorders lack large viewfinders to quickly assess and adjust shots. For example, if there's one operator for multiple cameras, it's very important that they can adjust shots quickly. Balanced audio for professional microphones. Consumer camcorders have only fragile mini HDMI or micro HDMI, and prosumer camcorders can have full-size HDMI, but professional SDI video is only available at higher cost. Another fundamental missing piece is the ability to integrate camera control with the ATEM switcher. And obviously you can add multiple accessories to these cameras to bring some of these features, but again, extra cost, and it will be nowhere near as effective. So all of these points to start to define what we need from a studio camera for small productions. Looking at studio cameras in general, up to now, cameras have been only tailored for studio and live production works in the mainstream. Broadcast environments where much larger production budgets are available. But for example, if you take the Blackmagic Ursa broadcast system, it uses a single fiber cable to handle bidirectional signals between the camera and the switcher, not just for video and audio, but also for camera control, talkback and tally to increase efficiency and productivity. Fiber connectivity is used in studios for convenience because sometimes you need very long cable runs. If I take the example of football stadiums, that would be impossible to achieve only using SDI because cable runs are very long. And a much wider range of studio and live productions nowadays have less demanding requirements where professional SDI connectivity or more affordable systems using HDMI are ideal. So without a dedicated studio camera at this price bracket until now, content creators had to adapt to mirrorless DSLRs and entry-level camcorders. This can change now because we have the new studio camera 4K Plus and 4K Pro, which have been designed to bring broadcast style studio and live features for smaller productions. Now let's step through some of the main features and benefits of these cameras. The high performance sensors capture natural looking colors in 4K, images for outstanding HD whenever you work with the ATEM Mini series, or full 4K whenever you use other members of the ATEM family, like the Television Studio Pro 4K, for example. Studio cameras use the same tried and tested sensor for the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. And by the way, this makes them an ideal addition to any studio already using the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. 13 stops of wide dynamic range, ensuring that the camera can faithfully capture detail in both the shadow areas and the highlight areas and any high contrast scene. Looking at the mount of the lenses, we chose to use Micro Four Thirds lenses, which have been highly successful with the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. So this has been now adopted for the Studio Camera 4K as well. They are primarily designed for photography, so they can give you an excellent image quality. And Micro Four Thirds also offers you flexibility in terms of lens choice because there's a broad range of widely available lenses from diverse manufacturers. Another addition here is motorized lenses can also be controlled using the Blackmagic focus and zoom demands. They'll be available very soon. And they can also be controlled via the ATEM software or using a switcher. And the benefits of these lenses are they are very compact, they're lightweight, and they're much more affordable than other formats. Now, talking about dual native ISO is the key for the camera to capture wide dynamic range over a significant range of gain settings. For example, the Studio Camera 4K ranges gain settings from -12 dB, equivalent to 100 ISO, or up to plus 36 dB, equivalent to 25,600 ISO. So this is optimized to reduce grain and noise in images. So the first level native ISO is 400 ISO, equivalent to 0 dB, and is used for normal lighting conditions, such as daylight or studios that are very well lit. Or the second native ISO, that's 3,200, which is equivalent to 18 dB of gain, and is used for lower light levels. You can go up to 36 dB gain. They can be dialed in and still achieve low noise images. So the key benefits of this system is if you have fewer lights, and if you need studios in conditions where the light might be difficult, extremely dim events like on this picture here, now this can be achieved with our dual native ISO. Looking at the back of the camera, we have integral 7-inch viewfinder touchscreen, which is a key feature of the studio camera design, and it gives you a very professional feel. So this is high resolution screen is in HD. It has 600 nits of brightness, allowing the operators to critically access any image and framing. And the 4K Pro has a touchscreen of 2000 nits, which is much brighter. And this allows operators to be using the camera in brighter conditions, such as external live events. Essential system parameters such as frame rate, shutter, gain, color temperature, and many more along measuring tools like the histogram, audiometer levels. Everything is displayed in an uncluttered way. And the system menu structure is very common to all Blackmagic cameras. So it's very easy. If you can use one of them, you're going to be very familiarized to that. Touchscreen brightness, contrast, and peaking adjustments. You can see them on the right side, all the dials that can be used to adjust these things very quickly. And on the other side, we have 3 function buttons, which can be programmed with the operator's favorite settings or any fast recall or presets. So meaning that with a touch of one button, you can recall multiple settings at the same time. Now, the studio cameras are designed to output to ATEM live switches over HDMI, SDI, or 10 gig Ethernet cable. But I'm going to go into the Ethernet connection a bit further down the presentation. They don't have traditional onboard recording. That means no SD card slots. However, for isolated recording, we have an approach that I feel that's more flexible and offers better quality. So each camera can record 12-bit Blackmagic RAW files in 4K, and everything is recorded via USB discs that can be connected via the USB-C port. Even when live switching HD over HDMI, you can still record in 4K in camera and trigger that if you're using an ATEM Mini ISO, for example. Another great advantage of using this with an ATEM Mini Pro ISO is you can be recording Blackmagic RAW, and these files can be relinked into the DaVinci Resolve project that will be created by the ISO as well, which is a highly efficient way to work because it's very quick. And then you're going to be replaced all the compressed files that are generated by the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, which are H.264. Some of you might not be super familiar with Blackmagic RAW, so let's have a closer look. Traditional 422 codecs in cameras, they create smaller files, but they also throw away half of the color information, and they bake in a particular look, which leaves very little latitude for creative adjustments in post-production. RAW formats record that data straight off the sensor, which maximize creative options in post-production, but traditional RAW creates very large file sizes. So Blackmagic RAW combines instead both of the best of both worlds. So it preserves the characteristics of the sensor while generating small file sizes, leaving extensive scope for creativity in post-production. So ProRes, for example, is an industry-leading codec. So it's a very good point of reference and comparison, which is what we're looking at in this graphic here. Both ProRes and Blackmagic RAW can operate at several compression ratios to give a different choice of quality levels. But as we can see from the chart, Blackmagic RAW delivers smaller files at each comparable quality and compression level. This makes the ideal choice when wanting to create a separate version of the content after the live event. A better look of the Studio Camera 4K Plus. Again, the 4K Plus and the 4K Pro is specifically designed to bring broadcast studio style operation and efficiency to users of the ATEM Mini. Everyone working in small scale production or live streaming, but the 4K Plus is designed especially to integrate with the ATEM Mini for HD production using HDMI connectivity. And you'll still get most of the features that were listed previously. The 4K Pro adds a dimension of flexibility. A starting point like the 4K Plus integrates with the ATEM Mini as well, but it has a brighter screen and it adds professional balanced audio connectivity. The 4K Pro strength lies in the 4K production. So whenever you integrate with the SDI environments, with switches that are like the ATEM Broadcast Studio Pro, for example, and it adds all the features that I mentioned before, such as like talkback, which is something that can only be achieved on an SDI environment. Looking at the all-in-one design, the Studio Camera 4K Plus and Pro, they offer key benefits and efficiencies of studio-style functionality, and everything is combined into a single unit. So the name Studio Camera might imply a technically complicated configuration, but in this case, it's exactly the opposite. DSLR and camcorders users have to build up complicated rigs with loads of bolt-on accessories to achieve only some of the functionality. And again, this is at extra cost. But the all-in-one design of the Studio Camera benefits from the unique form factor that allows easy access to all operator controls and connections. Built-in 7-inch viewfinder, again, for quick framing, focus, and color checks. You have the histogram, focus peaking indicators, and for optimizing your images. We have comprehensive I/O with HD over HDMI for small productions. Whenever people are using the ATEM Mini series, and with the Pro model providing as well SDI and 10 gig Ethernet for 4K productions, as well as balanced audio connection for XLRs, professional microphones, and talkback headsets. Third-party cameras cannot offer this powerful integration that allows ATEM switches to control and set up color correction on the Studio Camera 4K range, and this will help you to match all the other cameras and make operational adjustments very easy and remotely. Let's have a look now at the 3 key configurations for the Studio cameras whenever they're working with ATEM switches. So Blackmagic Studio cameras with ATEM switches, they form a deeply integrated multi-camera system, and this can be normally only found on higher end systems. So third-party cameras in a multi-camera setup with an ATEM, they still operate in isolation, and the ATEM simply switches between camera outputs, but there's no integration or functionality between camera and switcher. So for example, if using a third-party camera, settings and color matching has to be set up on a standalone menus, and we know that these menus can be very complicated and very deep, and this is very inefficient and lacks a lot of precision. Whenever you're using the ATEM software control, our cameras, you can perform precise color balance, matching your Blackmagic Studio cameras, and allows adjustments on the fly, and this avoids on-screen errors. So production quality and efficiency is scalable depending on the Studio Camera and ATEM switch combination that you choose. And you can achieve various levels of production quality and efficiency in HD or 4K by combining the right Studio Camera model with the ATEM Mini or more sophisticated SDI-based ATEM models. So let's have a look at some workflows here and applications. The Studio Camera 4K Plus has been designed to integrate with the ATEM Mini series by using HDMI, making it ideal for small studio productions such as podcasting, magazine shows, and interviews where cable runs are not a problem, because we know HDMI is always limited to 10 meters. Incidentally, the camera detects the ATEM Mini over HDMI and automatically switches their output to HD. But again, I must remind you here, they're still using the 4K sensor, and all the camera is doing is scaling the output to HD. So multi-camera setup can be managed centrally from the switcher or using the ATEM software control. And if you're using the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, the outputs can be streamed directly to the platform, whilst Studio Camera heads can record in Blackmagic RAW into the USB-C disks. And you can have more options in terms of post-production in 4K later if you desire to do so. Now, a quick mention about the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. It allows a standard USB disk to record the live output from the stream, and you get a copy from all your clean files from your sources individually. So like back to back recorded all your sources. This file is going to be H.264 coded, so they are compressed. But additionally, and most importantly, the ISO creates the DaVinci Resolve project. And this project will contain all your cuts and transitions performed during the live show. So basically, this project remember all your switching points. So you get an editable version of that as well. The Blackmagic RAW files from each studio camera can be loaded into this folder and then replaced with a simple one command. So whether you're recreating the original switching frequency, or you want to create an entirely new edit sequence, you can use your relinked DaVinci Resolve files, which will give you much more scope for different post-production levels of, for example, grading. And again, this DRP files will contain all your edits, and you get everything set up for you into DaVinci Resolve. And if you want to relink the Blackmagic RAW files, all you need to do is to press one button, which is amazing, and it saves a lot of time. Now looking at something a bit more advanced here, talking about the Studio Camera 4K Pro. This is ideal for higher budget productions and 4K content, such as big brand magazine shows where the image quality is paramount, or for events such as live performances and conferences that require long cable runs. So two key benefits here: set up to 4K quality, the ability of long cable runs. Again, SDI, you can go up to 100 meters. And an SDI infrastructure, of course, adds a number of additional benefits to improve operational efficiency. For example, talkback, crucial for coordinating actions between a larger crew whenever the cameras are very far from the control center where the live director is. And the switcher can also send a program return video, which allows the camera operators to flip the viewfinder between while they're filming, or they can check what's going out to air on the live program feed. So again, very useful, so operators can calculate what the next move is. Something that's very important to mention here that's going to be with us very soon. In terms of broadcast studios, as I mentioned before, outside broadcasts requiring longer cable runs, they use SMPTE fiber connectivity. And this is a fiber optical cable between the camera and the switcher, which allows both video and audio to travel both ways, and as well the data for the camera control. This simply simplifies the camera cable loom. So you have one cable instead of multiple cables, and allows long cable runs, which are very impractical whenever you have multiple cables. So Blackmagic applied this same principle for more affordable Cat6 Ethernet transmission, replacing the optical fiber with a copper cable, because we know optical fiber is much more expensive, and this is a different type of customer that we are looking at here as well. The Ethernet connects directly into the camera heads, and it needs a separate studio converter box, which is what you can see in this image here. This will be available later this year. And for each camera to connect to the switcher through the boxes, and this allows a distance of up to 70 meters. So again, very useful. Looking into more detail here, 10 gig Ethernet connectivity is the new solution for larger live venues, such as theaters, houses of worship, conferences, where you normally require longer camera cables, and HDMI, again, 10 meters limit, it will be very complicated to achieve. And sometimes it's much more useful than having a loom or SDI cables, and plus the power supply of the camera is going to be impractical to deploy. This is the perfect solution. So one cable can do all of this. So not to be confused with standard video over IP application. The new studio converter unit will work one per camera, but this handles bidirectional video and audio data and can also power the camera using power over Ethernet. Everything is fed down over one single Cat6 cable. So this system has been tested up to 70 meters point to point. And using a single cable for a longer run is a huge benefit, and running additional Cat6 makes a great backup option as well. So the Studio Converter will be available later this year, and so you should expect to hear more from us about this very soon. Now, a quick product comparison here. Just a reminder of key differences between the Studio Camera 4K Plus and Pro. 4K Plus is made more affordable for more affordable HDMI and HD-based productions, and the 4K Pro, which can bring more professional features to HDMI-based productions as well, or even to a higher budget 4K production over SDI or Ethernet connectivity. So to summarize what we learned today, the Studio Camera 4K Plus and 4K Pro are designed to bring live and studio style features for smaller productions. They can achieve higher efficient and integrated workflow with the ATEM switcher series. And the Studio 4 Camera 4K Plus, optimized for HD productions over HDMI, ideal partner for ATEM Minis. And the 4K Pro is optimized for 4K production over SDI or the 10 gig Ethernet. Now I have a few customer cases here that I want to show you very quickly. So first is What Culture, based in the UK, one of the biggest entertainment websites of this kind. They have 12 YouTube channels, including the world's biggest unofficial wrestling website. Excuse me. And they reach a monthly audience of over 10 million with their videos. So they create videos, podcasts, books, and magazines. They're a good example of content creators that are taking the opportunity to step up their production with the capabilities as part of the expansion plan. So they recently expanded into new premises, created 5 bespoke studios, and each space is specifically designed to produce a different type of video content for their channels, including live streaming and podcasts. So these 3 studios are each outfitted with 3 Studio Camera 4K Pro. And 2 further studios are equipped with Infinity green screen, and they use Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro and Pocket 4K. The studios obviously operating in a HDMI infrastructure. And a quick mention here from Phil Chambers, which is one of the heads of What Culture. Multicam setup give us a greater scope in what we can do to make content more engaging for an audience. And we are able to react to breaking news by producing live stream and podcasts based on news instantly from our Blackmagic equipment. He also gave a statement about the camera, saying that as for the quality, the cameras themselves, the sensors are exceptional, and prime lenses lend our production of cinematic depth of field. And frankly, they are very superior to everything that we used before. Another customer case here is a German company. Viewfinder specializes in multi-camera live streaming, live events, and corporate production, and is based at the Studio Babelsberg in Potsdam, Berlin. So this recently acquired 3 Studio Camera 4K Pro, and they use it with an ATEM Production Studio 4K as the main production kit. And the first production used the Studio 4 Camera Pro with a Panasonic SH1 mounted into a crane to shoot a music video for a German singer-songwriter, Dagobert Weiss, in a remote Norwegian cabin to support his future album launch. Despite the obviously technical challenges, the performance was live streamed from the remote cabin using an ATEM Mini Pro ISO for the live mix and the stream. So they have subsequently done a multi-camera production and will be soon covering multiple stages at the Media Tech Hub conference in Berlin, which requires SDI-based infrastructure because that is requiring long cable runs. They also be streaming seminars to reach an wider audience. And Robert Kulix, which is the team leader of Viewfinder, told us that the Studio Camera 4K Pro, adding this to their production workflows mean that they can build high quality streaming setup and half of the time. And he also told us that having tally and talkback and camera remote control gives them the professional broadcast features within a compact and intuitive design. My last example here is the Pan-African Christian University based in Nairobi, Kenya, purchased multiple Studio Camera 4K Pro, as long as with the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO for his new studio in the Department of Communications and Language and Linguistics. The multipurpose studio is supporting a number of university activities, and the studio is also used to capture and deliver lectures over Zoom and other online platforms with a single camera setup. They also do pre-recording teaching materials using 2 cameras and a mix of computer graphics. And the communications department head, Mr. Isaac Oyuga, tell us that the studio cameras are helping to transform the university and support 3,500 strong student community. He also mentioned that with the studio cameras, immediately adds professional image quality to our teaching staff. Presentations that at the university is now able to record most sessions and build up a body of educational resources. And students as well use the system outside the studio environment to produce multi-camera coverage of the university's weekly chapel sessions and services, which will be streamed using the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO directly into Facebook. Excuse me. So again, just a quick reminder here, Studio Camera 4K Plus and Pro, designed to bring studio style features to smaller productions, highly efficiency, integrated with a workflow with ATEM series and switches. Studio Camera 4K Plus for HD over HDMI production, and 4K Pro for 4K production. Looking at them individually, the 4K Plus is a highly efficient, integrated studio style workflow, capture detailed high contrast images under a wide range of lighting conditions, incorporates a 7-inch touchscreen viewfinder, integration with the ATEM Mini switcher, and looking at the 4K Pro, highly efficient and integrated studio style workflow, detail, high contrast images, unique all-in-one studio camera, and you can achieve long cable runs using a single Ethernet cable that will power the camera as well. That's all from me for today, and I would like to be open for Q&A now. But if I cannot answer your question right now, you can email my team at presales-emea@blackmagicdesign.com. Thank you very much for your time today, and we're going to be open for questions now.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. I think actually you were absolutely crystal clear in your explanations, because we have only received one question so far. And that is, will the studio converter work with the ATEM Mini?
Studio converter. There's no necessity to use the studio converter with the ATEM Mini, but to be honest, like I would have to double check on that because I cannot answer 100% for sure. But studio converter is the outputs of that bring the program in and out, SDI based. So in terms of extending the cable, if anyone wants to extend the cable, you can get bidirectional converters, go into SDI and go back into the HDMI using 2 converters, one on each end. But I need to double check because I think that the studio converter is designed for SDI infrastructures only. Okay,
we got one more question. Is the screen on the camera able to tilt, but not specified which camera? So
no, unfortunately, like so basically the studio camera is everything is in one body. So there's no movement in the screen, if that makes any sense. But if you're looking at camera like a 6K Pro, the Pocket Cinema 6K Pro, you can definitely tilt the screen into various angles. But that's a different camera, so let's not confuse things too much here.
All right, and does the 4K Plus have any audio inputs?
it does have audio inputs, but they are 3.5 mini jack inputs. So if you want to use adapters, or if you have any devices that support this kind of connection, I guess you can use that as well. So you have headphones and you have microphones as well.
Okay, we got a thumbs up for that one.
Perfect.
So do you have any other questions? Please put them in the Q&A or in the chat. And while you think about that for a second, I will again remind you that we have a special offer from Scandinavian Photo for you who are attending this event. And this offer is valid until Sunday. And use the discount code BMD event 2022. I guess we are already in the future, but as I said, only until Sunday. So let's see if we have any more questions. Not yet. Gabriel, do you have anything else you would like to add?
I would like to thank you very much for helping us with this event. And I hope it was very clear explanation.
Yeah, it seems so. Well, as Gabriel said, feel free to email. You can also feel free to email us at Scandinavian Photo. And we just received a thank you. Great presentation, Gabriel.
Oh, thanks.
So thank you everyone for listening, and have a nice day, and hopefully we'll be in touch over email soon.
All right. Thank you very much.
All
Have
right.
a good day, and I
Bye.
see you next time. Bye-bye.